What's up, guys? So, we continue with this book series preparing for The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. I'm really glad that you guys are enjoying this. If you haven't seen my previous video, I'll have a link here. It goes into one of the stories in here called A Question of Price, and I talk about the tie between Geralt and Ciri. So today, as promised, I'm going to be talking about The Last Wish. I've always said I'm Team Yennefer when it comes to The Witcher Wild Hunt, because of this story, because I don't know a lot about Yennefer. Like, I haven't read a lot of stories with Yennefer. This is where we see Geralt fall madly in love with her, and then some. So it starts off that Dandelion and Geralt are fishing at a lake, and they are struggling with this huge fish. Geralt's pretty much telling Dandelion to give it slack because the line's gonna break if he keeps pulling. And Dandelion's like, now you're freaking crazy, just pull it, pull it, we're gonna pull it out of the water. And they're struggling for a while, and finally the line breaks because Dandelion was pulling it too much, and they get mad at each other, and he's like, I freaking told you. And before I go into more detail, for those of you that don't know who Dandelion is, I'm speaking like you guys know, all of you. Dandelion is a troubadour. He's a bard. He's a singer. He tells stories through song. He mostly tells stories and poems of The Witcher. So he has spent a lot of time with The Witcher. He is one of Geralt's best friends. He travels with him a lot of times because The Witcher is usually alone when he's traveling. But he enjoys Dandelion's company, and Dandelion has fun traveling with the Witcher. So when they finally give up, Dandelion goes and checks the other line that they had placed there to catch more fish, and he's like, "Oh, there's something here. Something's caught here." And what was caught was this lamp, like literally a magic lamp, like Aladdin style. It says it's a charmed jar. This is so funny. Like, I was laughing so much. This is what I mean about how it's written. I need to read this to you guys. I will be doing the full thing later on, but I need to read this part to you guys. So pretty much this jar has a seal on it, and Geralt's like, oh, just leave it. It's just a freaking jar or whatever. And Dandelion's like, oh no, there's a seal on here. It's a magic seal. And Geralt's like, what's the seal? What is it? And when he sees it, he's like, don't touch it. Of course, Dandelion does the absolute opposite. So from the jar bursts out a djinn, or a genie. So what bursts out is this huge smoke, and it kind of forms like a face, but it does not look friendly. And stupid Dandelion's like, Djinn! said Dandelion, stamping his foot. I freed thee, and as of this day I am thy lord. My wishes. Run, yelled the Witcher. Run, Dandelion! My wishes, continued the poet, are as follows. Firstly, may Valdo Marx, the troubadour of Sidaris, die of apoplexy as soon as possible. Secondly, there's a count's daughter in Calf called Virginia, who refuses all advances. May she succumb to mine. Thirdly, and then it says, no one ever found out Dandelion's third wish. So after this, the genie goes crazy. It starts attacking Dandelion. Geralt's like, oh my god, he has no clue how to deal with this thing. He runs to get his sword, but this thing's already attacking Dandelion, and Dandelion gets like thrown to the ground. And finally, Geralt comes back with his sword, but the sword doesn't really do anything to it. So Geralt picks up the seal that Dandelion had got, that pretty much, set the genie free. And he was like, I have no clue how to deal with this. So he just holds the seal in front of the genie before it attacks him, and he recites this exorcism that once was taught to him by a priest. And this exorcism is in a different language. And the genie just like screams at him and leaves. So Geralt runs to Dandelion because he's just laying there, and he's like, oh my god, Dandelion, are you dead? And he's like about to scream, but nothing comes out, just like a croak. And Geralt's like, oh my god, what's wrong? What's wrong? And Dandelion starts spitting up blood. And he's like, oh my god, this is not good. So Geralt takes Dandelion to the closest town, which is the town of Rind. If I mispronounce any of these words and you know how they're pronounced, just let me know down below. I appreciate you telling me how these words are pronounced. So when they arrive to the gates of this town, it's at night, and Geralt tells the guards he's got a dandelion on his horse, and he's just like almost passed out, and he's just spitting up blood. And Geralt's like, you guys have to help me. You guys have to open the gate. I need help. My friend is like pretty much dying. I need a healer. And the guards are like, oh no, this is not a good time at all, because we're not allowed, like law just completely prevents us from letting anyone in at night. So he's like, we cannot let you in. The only thing we could do is let you in like this little room, not really inside the gates, but like outside the gates, you know, like they have like these little, I guess similar to like guards quarters or something like that, like a little house or something like that. And it's an elf's house. Cheridian is the elf's name. So Geralt has no other choice. So he goes in there, and he's waiting there. He's like, oh my god. And they're trying to help Dandelion, but he can't talk. He looks like he's in pain. And one of them tells Geralt that his vocal cords, Dandelion's vocal cords, are most likely being affected by some spell. And they're like, he may be able to still talk, but probably not sing like ever again. I mean, this is Dandelion's life, singing and telling stories and stuff. So Geralt is just like, oh my god, this is gonna get worse and worse. So one of the guys there tells Geralt, your only chance is to search for this sorceress that's in town. They tell him something of an individualist. They're talking about the sorceress. Something of an individualist. She's ignoring both the boycott imposed on Rind by the Council of Wizards and the disposition of the local counselors, and is doing rather splendidly out of it. The boycott means there's tremendous demand for magical services here, and of course the sorceress isn't paying any levies. Sorceress is staying with a merchant, a trade broker from Novigrad, who is also the honorary ambassador. Nobody can touch her there. She has asylum. So there's a boycott on magic in this town. So that's why she's in this house of a merchant, because people pretty much want her dead. They had already threatened to like throw rocks at her and stuff if she were to show her face. So Geralt's like, she's my only hope. She could give Dandelion the healing magic he needs. And he's like, where is she? What's her name? He says her name is Yennefer of Vergerberg. That sounds like I said it totally wrong, but I don't know. Again, let me know in the comments down below. So the minute the sun starts going up, they let him go through the gate, Geralt goes and looks for Yennefer. When he arrives to this house, there's like a bouncer at the door. There's like this guard right there, this dude that's just not letting anyone in. And Geralt's like, well, I have business here, you know, I need to speak to the sorceress in here. And the guy's like, yeah, right, you're not coming in here, Witcher. So Geralt takes out this little bag of money, and he's like, you're not gonna bribe me? And he's like, no, I'm not. And he whacks him with the bag of money in the head. He like starts hitting him a lot and like kicking him. So he just totally knocks the guy out. And he's like, money, he muttered, opens all doors. So he goes in there, and he finds this guy that's naked, and he's just like rummaging through the kitchen, and Geralt's like, okay. And he's like, I need to find apple juice. This is the merchant. This is the guy that Geralt is looking for. So Geralt's like, okay. So he starts helping him look for apple juice, and they find apple juice. Geralt holds a jug while the guy's pouring apple juice in there, and then he just passes out because the guy was freaking drunk out of his mind. Geralt's like, okay. So he takes the jug of apple juice because he finds out that this is for her, assuming this is Yennefer. So he goes looking for her, and the big thing, and I'm sure they're going to mention this in the game, is that Yennefer smells of lilacs and gooseberries. This is a huge thing. Every time you see lilacs and gooseberries, you know Yennefer is close by. Starts seeing clothes on the ground, and he's like, oh, and he's starting to feel a little embarrassed, and he's like, okay, what am I gonna find? This is probably not very decent of me. But he keeps going anyways with his little jug of apple juice. He finally finds where Yennefer is. It's in the room. She's in bed. She's covered up, and her hair is all messed up. When she sees that he has the jug of apple juice, she just yanks it from him and starts drinking because she's so thirsty. Just so you guys get an idea. I mean, you guys know how Yennefer looks like if you've seen the trailers. But a pale triangular face, violet eyes, and narrow, slightly contorted lips appeared beneath the black tresses, her hair. She had pretty shoulders, a shapely neck, and around it a black velvet choker with a star-shaped jewel sparkling with diamonds. Apart from the choker, she had nothing on. Already in the description of Yennefer, it's not, you could tell that it's not just a description of Yennefer. It's what Geralt is noticing of her. And a lot of these things are so detailed that you're already getting the idea that Geralt is fascinated by her. What are you doing here, and where, damn it, is Barent, the guy? Geralt answers her with a bit of sarcasm, and he's like, which question shall I answer first? And she immediately hits him with a spell. But Geralt, being prepared, he uses a sign that we've never seen Geralt use in the games, or at least not in The Witcher 2. It says he crosses his arms, which I'm thinking he goes like this, or like this. And it's the sign of heliotrope, which blocks spells. So he blocks her spell, but he still gets pushed back a little bit and falls. So already you're getting a sense of Yennefer's personality. She takes no crap from anyone. You talk to her just a little pompously or a little sarcastically, and she's like, excuse me? She's extremely proud. She's extremely confident. But I love it. I love it that it says that she's actually short. She's pretty short, but she is a firecracker. She will tear you down, and she will love doing it. When she sees that he parried her spell, she's like, what are you? You're not a magician, or you're not a sorcerer or a wizard. What are you? And he's like, I'm Geralt of Rivia, a witcher. And she's like, and she becomes extremely interested, like intrigued, because she's never seen a witcher before. And she like starts getting all close to him, and she's like looking at his eyes, and she's like, could you dilate them on at will, and like this and that? And Geralt's like, I will tell you everything you want to know about mutations, about my eyes, about all the things the witchers do, if you help me with my friend. And he tells him about what happened to Dandelion, and she's like, how'd this happen? And Geralt starts to explain, it says, carefully, he starts to explain, so I think he doesn't say absolutely everything. But Yennefer is already like, oh, really? You already start getting the idea that she knows more than she's saying. She's trying to hide that she knows more. So she's just letting the Witcher talk. Oh, before he starts telling her all of this, she's like, you know what? First, I need a bath. And so do you. There's usually a bath scene. And there's usually naked bodies. And usually the Witcher's there. This is what she says. I thought it was pretty funny. She says, make use of the opportunity to have a bath yourself. I can not only guess the age and breed of your horse, but also its color by the smell. So Geralt goes to the bath. He's waiting for her. He's already pretty much done taking a bath, but he's still naked there. And then Yennefer comes, and he turns around. He's for modesty's sake. And once she's in, and he wraps a towel around himself. And once she's there, she's like, okay, so I don't really know you. And he's like, don't worry, I'll turn around. She's like, no, I want to look you in the eyes. So she does a spell, and she disappears. And he's like, well, now I can't look at you in the eyes. And she's like, what freaking ever, as if I care. No, I'm just kidding. Geralt could hear her moving around in the water, but she's invisible. So she's like, okay, go on, tell me what happened. And that's where Geralt starts telling him telling her the story. When Geralt tells her that the way that the djinn left was that he used the seal, he pointed the seal at it, and he said this exorcism. And she's like, what exorcism? What did you say? And she's like, repeat it. And he repeats it. She starts cracking up. And he's like, what's so funny? Triss and Yennefer are best friends, by the way. Geralt does not know Triss at this moment. When Geralt was saying the this exorcism, he repeated the incantation, substituting the vowel E with an intake of breath. According to the safety rule, he thought he'd impress the sorceress by knowing the rule, so he was surprised when he heard laughter coming from the tub. So she says, Triss is going to kill herself laughing when I tell her, who taught you that, Witcher, that incantation? He says, a priestess from Holdra's sanctuary. It's a secret language of the temple. And she says, secret to some, that wasn't an incantation, Geralt, nor would I advise you to repeat those words in other temples. And he says, what was it, if not an incantation? And she says, a witty saying, if rather indecent. He says, what saying? And she says, never mind. She agrees to go help Dandelion. The way that they leave from here to where Dandelion is, the Witcher's like, it's not that far. And she's like, no, I can't walk the streets, by the way, because I'll get freaking hit with rocks to death. So she makes this portal, and Geralt's like, ugh, you know, I hate freaking portals. You know, someone once went through a portal, half of them ended up where he wanted, the other half nobody knows where it ended up. So they go through the portal, and they arrive to where Dandelion is. A long time passes while she's helping Dandelion. The elf that was there is like, why is she taking so long? Like, this shouldn't have taken so long. The spell to help Dandelion's throat shouldn't take this long. Geralt's like, just whatever. She said, do not interrupt her. No matter how long this takes, as long as Dandelion is okay. So they wait longer, and then finally Yennefer comes out, and she's like, Witcher, can you come up here? The Witcher goes over to her, and it looks in the room and sees Dandelion sleeping. And it says, with a stupid smile on his face. And she's like, he's dreaming. So she pretty much helped Dandelion. She fixed his problem that the genie left over. And Geralt's like, can I see him? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. And when Geralt walks in, he starts feeling his Witcher medallion shaking. He sees like a glyph on the ground that she made, like a sign. And he's like, what is this? And she's like, it's a trap. And he's like, for who? And she's like, for you. Oh, and I forgot to mention that back at the bath, Yennefer asked him, where's the seal that you got? And the Witcher lied, and he said, oh, I think Dandelion still has it in this seal that Yennefer has made. He's like, this seal is used to summon demons, and like trap demons. And she's like, he's like, if you're gonna do something with demons, I have to stop you. He's like, because that's gonna put a lot of people in danger. She's like, I checked Dandelion, and he doesn't have the seal. So she's like, I know you have it. And he's like, why do you want it? And she's like, because I want it. She's like, that's one of my payments for helping your friend. And he's like, oh, one, so there's more. He starts to feel weird, and he clenches his jaw, and she's like, I was wondering when you were going to start feeling it. She was like, since I know that you block spells, she placed a spell above him when he walked in, and slowly it was paralyzing him, so he wouldn't catch on. He could still talk. He's like, whatever you're going to do, let me get Dandelion out of here, and then I'll come back. You know, I'll come back and I'll repay you. I owe you that much for saving his life, for saving his voice. Just let me get Dandelion out of here. Let me get him safe. And she's like, don't worry. He's going to be safe. She's like, don't worry. I'm not going to hurt him. And he doesn't trust her. He's like, no, I need to get him out of here. She's like, you're going to give me the seal right now. She's like, I owe a few favors to a few people in this town. She's like, and you're going to repay them for me. She's like, you're perfect for it. So she ends up taking the seal from him. It was hidden in one of like a secret pocket that he had. And she kisses him, bites him on the lip, and it pretty much puts him into this spell. He's like a drone. He is doing everything she says. She's pretty much, he passes out after she kisses him, and he's on the ground, and then he like comes to, and she's like, "Are you gonna do what I say?" And he's like, "Yes." Yes, Lady Yennefer or whatever. He's like, "Or kiss my hand," and he kisses her hand, and she pretty much leads him to the town. And when the elf and all that, everyone outside see the Witcher walk out, they're like, "Oh my god, look at his eyes!" They're like, "Something's wrong with him," and they're like, "Don't touch him," because they now know that he's under a spell. And the elf that I tell you guys about, he's fallen in love with Yennefer as well. He's absolutely crazy for her, in love with her. He'll do anything for her. When Geralt leaves this location and he's just like walking like a drone, he blacks out, and they wake up, him and the elf wake up in the dungeon, and he's like, "What the hell happened? Why are we here? Where the hell's Dandelion? How long has passed?" They have no clue because the elf also passed out. Geralt's like, "You have to tell me everything that happened because I do not remember a single thing." The elf tells him that he first went to the pawnbroker, and he gave him a beating of his lifetime, shouting some nonsense about a lady's honor. And then he went to the apothecary, and he kicked his butt as well, also giving a speech. Put it simply, "You stated that a self-respecting man shouldn't ever call a professional harlot a whore because it's base and repugnant." So he's pretty much going to people, these favors or these repayments that Yennefer said she owed people are pretty much beatings, because she's so pissed off that these people offended her honor. After the apothecary, a bunch of guards come to him, and Geralt's like, "Oh my god, did I assault authority?" And the elf's like, "Well, you already did that before because the apothecary and the pawnbroker are part of the council." So he's like, you had already assaulted authority way before the guards. But he's like, "The guards, they had swords, whips, clubs, hatchets, and you only had an ash cane with a pummel." He's like, "And you took them out." And then he went to the priest next at the temple. Crep, his name is also a member of the council, and he had said some nasty things in his sermons about Yennefer. So he gets there, he's like, "You omitted his title and threw in other descriptions." So blasphemy came into it too. What else? Desecration of the temple, and he's like, "You didn't get that far." So he just passes out right after that, and he's like, "And I stood up for you because the armed guards wanted to, grab you, and I got in the middle of it and got hit in the head, so that's why he was knocked out as well." And Geralt's like, "You've no idea how strong that spell was. My dear friend, I can break an ordinary spell within a few minutes, and I don't faint while doing it." In the cell, these guards come, pretty much already ready to take the Witcher and this guy for their sentencing. And the guard starts to beat up Geralt, and Geralt's like, "Oh my god, just let him knock me out, man. Like, I really just want him to knock me out because I want to save my organs," because he's just kicking him and kicking him. The guard's like, "Well, no wishes at all?" And Geralt says, "Just one," moaned the Witcher, raising his head with difficulty. "That you burst, you son of a whore." The guard suddenly gobbled like a turkey, grew red, grabbed his stomach with both hands, howled, roared with pain, and burst. So now after this, they're at the mayor's house, and the mayor's like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you guys used sorcery on my guards. You made that guy just burst like a tomato." And he's like, "What am I gonna do with you guys?" And they're trying to explain what happened. It was really interesting to read this part because the priest, the guy that Geralt had gone to, the guy that's named Crep, he starts to explain something very interesting about genies and enchanters, because they're like, "What the hell would Yennefer want with this genie? Like, just the wishes or what? This is just myth. This is just legend." And Crep starts to explain. Enchanters draw their power from the forces of nature, or to put it more accurately, from the so-called four elements of principles, commonly called the natural forces: air, water, fire, and earth. Each of these elements has its own dimension, which is called a plane in the jargon. used by enchanters. There's a water plane, fire plane, and so on. These dimensions, which are beyond our reach, are inhabited by what are called genies. And Geralt says, that's what they're called in legends. And he's like, don't interrupt me. There are 4 sorts, just as there are 4 planes. Jinns are air creatures. I think they're called Marides or Marids. Marides. Marides are associated with the principle of water. Afrit are fire genies, and Dao, the genies of earth. A genie like this is a living reservoir of magical energy. A sorcerer who has a genie at their beck and call can direct that energy in the form of spells. They don't have to draw the force from nature. The genie does it for them. The power of such an enchanter is enormous, close to omnipotence. So he starts to give examples of enchanters and wizards or whatever, sorcerers, that have taken genies into their possession. He's like, it's not very common. He's like, but they do it in order to achieve huge magical feats. He starts giving an example of this one guy that had a Dao, an earth genie, who moved like a mountain. And he's like, originally that cannot happen without the aid of a genie. So they capture the genie and they use it for themselves, for their magical abilities. And he mentioned someone else else that has done that as well. And he's like, see, you do know what I'm talking about. And the priest is like, word has it, old monk, which is the guy that Geralt had mentioned, had a way of forcing a djinn to serve him. There were rumors that he had more than one. He was said to keep them in bottles and make use of them when need arose. 3 wishes from each genie, then it's free and escapes into its own dimension. Genies are spiteful and deceitful beings. They don't like being packed into bottles and ordered to move mountains. They do everything they possibly can to make it impossible for you to express your wishes, and then they fulfill them in a way which is hard to control and foresee. Sometimes literally, so you have to be careful what you say to subjugate a genie. So it's like, be careful what you wish for. That's why it attacked Dandelion's vocal cords, so he wouldn't keep talking. And then again, Geralt mentions the exorcism, and the priest is like, well, tell me the exorcism, what is it? And Geralt repeats it, and the priest says, what? The priest first turned pale, then red, and finally blue. How dare you? Are you making fun of me? Forgive me, to be honest, I don't know what the words mean. And he says, so don't repeat what you don't know. I have no idea where you could have heard such filth. Finally, Dandelion bursts in, and Geralt's like, oh my god, Dandelion! And he's like, Geralt! And he's like, Dandelion! And Dandelion runs in, and he's like, I have to tell you guys something. And he's fine already. Yennefer told me that immediately when I arrived, I had to say this, and I quote, my wish is for you to believe the Witcher is not guilty for what occurred. That and no other is my wish. Dandelion still had one more wish, and his last wish was that they believed that the Witcher was innocent. So they let him go. They do end up believing the Witcher. So now they start hearing this crazy wind outside, and they look, and he's like, can you see the magical light? The sorceress, she's caught the genie, and you could see the genie hovering over one of the houses, not too far from them. And the genie's like trying to pull away, but it's captured. And Geralt says that he remembered back in his childhood with another Witcher, Eskel, which is another Witcher from the Wolf School in Kaer Morhen, that when they were in Kaer Morhen, they captured a big bumblebee, and they tied it to a string, and then they tied the other end to a bottle, I think it was, and it just was spinning around, like it was just flying around trying to get away, but it was just like, zzz, and it made them laugh a lot. And then Vesemir was like, put a stop to it. He's like, you don't do those things. Geralt says that it reminded him of that, seeing the genie. And the priest is like, there's nothing to be done here. He's like, that thing is not going to be captured by her, and he's going to end up killing her. It's way too powerful. He's like, this, I repeat, is an exceptionally strong djinn. If it wasn't for that, the sorceress would have hold of him already. Her spell is soon going to weaken. And Geralt just keeps looking, and he's like, I cannot leave her there. And he turns around and looks at the elf knowingly, because he remembered when the elf was like, I'd do anything for her. So the genie's breaking rooftops and everything because it's trying to get loose, but it's not weakening at all. Only Yennefer's magic is weakening. The way that Dandelion got there was through a portal that Yennefer had opened. So she, where she was, she opened a portal and sent Dandelion through there, and he came out where they were. So the Witcher looks at where the portal was, and he's like, he tells his priest, could you stabilize this portal so that I could go through back to where she is? And the priest's like, do not trust that. He's like, that you could kill yourself by doing that. And he's like, could you stabilize it with a spell or something? And he says, spell? The priest proudly raised his head. I'm not a godless sorcerer. I don't cast spells. My power comes from faith and prayer. And he says, can you or can't you? And he says, I can. And he stabilizes the portal. The elf tells Geralt, you're going there because you have to, aren't you? And Geralt hesitated. He thought he smelled the scent of lilac and gooseberries. I think so, he said reluctantly. I do have to. I'm sorry, Cheridian, or whatever his damn name is. And he says, don't apologize, I know what you feel. And he says, I doubt it, because I don't know myself. The elf smiled. The smile had little to do with joy. That's just it, Geralt. Precisely it. Right before Geralt goes in to the portal, the priest is like, you have to examine your conscience because you might freaking die. And Geralt's like, whatever, I already did. And before Geralt goes in, he's like, tell me what that exorcism said, what that exorcism meant. It means, essentially, get out of here and go yourself. Geralt entered the nothingness where cold stifled the laughter which was shaking him. You'll start to see that it's all starting to make sense, and Geralt hasn't really understood it yet, I think, until now. That's why he went in there laughing. So Geralt arrives where Yennefer is, and she's like, what are you doing here? She's like, no, you leave. He's like, this thing's gonna kill you. You need my help. And she's like, help? You? And he says, me, in spite of what I did to you, in spite of it. Interesting, but not important. I don't need your help. Get out of here. No. Get out of here, she yelled, grimacing ominously. It's getting dangerous. The whole thing's getting out of control. Do you understand? I can't master him. I don't get it, but the scoundrel isn't weakening at all. I caught him once he's fulfilled the troubadour's third wish, and I should have him in the sphere by now. But he's not getting any weaker, damn it. It looks as if he's getting stronger, but I'm still going to get the better of him. I'll break. You won't break him, Yennefer. He'll kill you. And pretty much what the djinn is doing is it's opening its own portal to get in, to get Yennefer. Yennefer's like, I'll open another portal. You get out of here now, or he's gonna freaking kill you too. Geralt threw himself towards her, pushed her aside, and sheltered her. The djinn, tangled in the magical light, sprang from the portal like a cork from a bottle and threw himself at them, opening his jaws. The Witcher clenched his teeth and hit him with a sign without any apparent effect. But the genie didn't attack. He hung in the air just below the ceiling, swelled to an impressive size, goggled at Geralt with his pale eyes, and roared. There was something in that roar, something like a command, an order. He didn't understand what it was. Geralt's like, I'm not leaving without you. So he grabs her, and she's freaking kicking him and everything, and he jumps through the portal with her. Because pretty much what's holding the djinn isn't Yennefer physically, but her sign on the ground, that glyph that she put. So the portal that Yennefer opened for Geralt to escape, she's like, I have no time and no focus energy to know where you're gonna end up. So she's like, you're just gonna go through there, and I have no clue where you're gonna be, but you're gonna be safe. And they arrive at this like ball, this like dinner party with like a bunch of people. They land on the dinner table, and they start fighting. Yennefer starts freaking trying to claw his eyes out. She's like, I can't believe you did that. She's like, I almost had him. And he's like, you're crazy. No, you didn't. You did not almost have him. One of the people says, it's a scandal, the Chamberlain said emphatically. Verily, you're exaggerating with this teleportation. I'm going to complain to the Council of Wizards. I'll demand. No one ever heard what the Chamberlain would demand. Yennefer wrenched herself free, slapped the Witcher in the ear with her open palm, kicked him forcefully in the shin, and jumped into the fading portal in the wall. So again, she goes to the portal and Geralt goes right after her. All they could hear after they jump in the portal was, "Music! Play on! Nothing has happened. Please take no notice of that pitiful incident." So now it goes back to Dandelion and on all them. They're like watching from the window, and Dandelion's like, "Why did he go through there? Like, why is he so stupid? Why doesn't he just let that witch die?" This is where Krep, the priest, he realizes, he's like, I think the Witcher has probably already realized that he has one last wish. Next in line was Geralt, because he was the one that grabbed the seal after. So without Geralt knowing it, he was fooling Yennefer, because Yennefer thought that she was going to be able to capture the genie after Dandelion's last wish, because now it was her turn. But he still hadn't fulfilled all of Geralt's wishes, because Geralt still had one last wish. That's why she couldn't master this genie, because this genie was still not hers to master. It still was tied to Geralt. That's why when the genie comes through and looks at Geralt, it yells this like command or order. It must have been telling him, "Make your wish so that I could finally get out of here and kill this lady." So the priest is like, I think Geralt probably already realized it. He's like, he can't tell Yennefer. He's like, he should not tell Yennefer. So Geralt's first wish was that exorcism, which was, "Get out of here and go f*** yourself." So the genie left. And the second wish was that he wished that the guard would burst. So he still had one last wish. He can't watch her just crash and burn. He's like, I need to tell you the truth. And he tells her. She's like, well, make your wish. She's like, make your wish so I could capture it. She's like, what do you want? She's like, humanity. She's like, you want your humanity back. You want to be normal. You want to be someone that you want to be, and not someone that you're supposed to be, you're forced to be. So Geralt's just quiet, and he's just watching her, and she's like, what do you want? She's like, out of everything, just make a wish. The really, really interesting part here is, I kind of left this out in the very beginning. There was this really interesting part about sorceresses. And there's this really interesting part about sorceresses. Usually sorceresses aren't pretty. They're ugly. They usually come from a good family, so that they could put them, because if they didn't, they couldn't be able to afford putting them into the school of magic and all that. So in a family that's pretty well established, they're any female, the family wants to marry them off to some noble or something like that, someone that could increase their status. He's like, it's very rare to find a sorceress that is beautiful, naturally beautiful, because why not marry her off then? So the ugly girls in families is pretty, it's kind of mean, but it's kind of sad. The ugly girls in these families were usually sent off to magic school, pretty much, to become sorceresses, because, okay, they can't marry her off to somebody because she's too ugly, so they send her off to magic school, because having a healer in the family, or a sorceress or a wizard or whatever, is beneficial as well. Unlike priestesses and druidses, who only unwillingly took ugly or crippled girls, sorcerers took anyone who showed evidence of predisposition. If the child passed the first years of training, magic entered into the equation, straightening and evening out legs, repairing bones which had badly knitted, patching hair lips, removing scars, birthmarks, and pox scars. The young sorceress would become attractive because the prestige of her profession demanded it. The result was pseudo-pretty women with the angry and cold eyes of ugly girls. Girls who couldn't forget their ugliness had been covered by the mask of magic, only for the prestige of their profession. And in this moment where she's telling him to make a wish, where she's like, whatever you want, wish, it says that he looks at her in her eyes, and he realizes her cold, penetrating, angry, and wise eyes were those of a hunchback. This is why I absolutely love her character, because there's just, oh my god, there's so much to her. He was horrified. No, not of the truth. He was horrified that she would read his thoughts, find out what he had guessed, that she would never forgive him for it. He deadened that thought within himself, killed it, threw it from his memory forever without trace. The ceiling cracked open. The djinn, entangled in the net of the now fading rays, tumbled right on top of them, roaring, and in that roar were triumph and murder lust. Yennefer leapt to meet him. Light beamed from her hands, very feeble light. The djinn opened his mouth and stretched his paws toward her. The Witcher suddenly understood what it was he wanted, and he made his wish. From where Dandelion and the rest of them, the mayor and all them, are standing, the djinn, they could see the djinn spurted from the dust storm, as huge as a barn, roaring and choking with triumphant laughter. The air genie, free now, not tied to anyone's will, traced their circles above the town, tore the spire from the town hall, soared into the sky, and vanished. Yennefer is like, she's dumbfounded. I mean, she lost her genie, but she doesn't even care. That wish of yours, I heard what you wished for. I was astounded, simply astounded. I'd have expected anything but to. What made you do it, Geralt? Why? Why me? And he says, don't you know? And she leaned over him, touched him. He felt her hair, smelling of lilac and gooseberries, brushed her face, and he suddenly knew that he'd never forget that scent, that soft touch. Knew that he'd never be able to compare it to any other scent or touch. Absolutely in love with her. He was already in love with her, but the wish that he made, it doesn't spell it out what his wish was, but Yennefer pretty much says that he has condemned himself to her. So I think what Geralt's wish must have been something like, I want her. I want Yennefer. So the djinn couldn't kill her, because that's what Geralt wanted. That was his wish, Yennefer. So the djinn had to leave her alone. So that's why the djinn just left. So they pretty much get it on, like, over and over and over. And so Dandelion and the mayor and the elf and all that, they go look, they're like, oh my god, I think they're dead. And Dandelion's like, oh, wait, I think I heard Yennefer moaning. Oh no, she must be in pain. And the elf looks and sees them and he's like, oh, we should go. Let's leave them. They're totally fine. So that's the last wish. That's how their love story begins. But it is like I had said before, with the whole careful what you wish for, their relationship is very rocky. I think it has a lot to do with that wish, that it just makes things rocky. I mean, Geralt was already in love with her before he made the wish, but that wish just kind of sealed it, and now he just can't have anyone else but her. No matter how much he separates himself from her, no matter how much they are apart, no matter how many other women present themselves to him, Triss, anyone else, Yennefer is always the one. I just can't wait to play The Witcher Wild Hunt, because I can't wait to see that relationship between them. Because it is a crazy one. It is a freaking roller coaster ride. So it's going to be very, very interesting to see to finally actually see a relationship with Geralt and Yennefer. Geralt does love Triss. He really does. But nowhere near how he loves Yennefer. Yennefer's just the one. That's pretty much it. Again, the next up is not going to be Blood of Elves. It's going to be Sword of Destiny. So I probably won't be finishing this before The Witcher Wild Hunt comes out, but I will be continuing it even after The Witcher Wild Hunt comes out, so don't you guys worry. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below of Yennefer. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll talk to you guys later.